Hi everyone, it's your buddy and pal Karnak, Star Wars Armada Explained. I'm going to be looking at some more squadrons today. So the squadrons we're going to look at the TIE Bomber for the Empire. So as with my other squadron reviews, I'm going to make sure I'm covering each squadron, keywords, any nuances or specifics with these cards. And yeah, let's dive right in. So let's start with the generic TIE Bomber. So the generic TIE Bomber, let me get this blown up here. The generic TIE Bomber, the Squadron, you can see there's no dots or bullet points in front of its name. Means you can bring as many of them as you can bring in your fleet total, which is again is a standard game of 400 points up to 134 points of squadrons. The TIE Bomber has got a symbol there in the bottom left-hand corner. That's how you know it's a TIE Bomber. Opposite side, you'll see its point cost, which is only 9 points. Going back up there, up to the top underneath its name, you'll see some numbers and some die listed there going from left to right. The 4 there represents its speed. It can travel up to distance 4 of the total of the distance 1 through 5 bands, so it can go up to distance 4, so pretty speedy. They're just as fast as TIE fighters are in this game. The next value there is, like I said, a brown square block is 5, represents how many health points they have. 5 health points. The next one there, the little blue laser blast coming out, represents its anti-squadron armament, which is 1 black die. And then the red box represents its anti-ship armament, which is also 1 black die. So the TIE bombers get 2 keywords. They get the bomber keyword, which is while attacking a ship, each of your critical icons adds 1 damage to the damage total, and you can resolve a critical effect. So for most fighters, when they are attacking a ship, when they are rolling their attack die, only icons that are showing hits. Like, let me just throw an example here. Let's see if I get it. Because that's a blue crit. Let me throw. There we go. So we'll see here that there's, you see a crit icon and then a regular hit icon. For any ship that is not a bomber, the only time they can deal damage, unless barring some card ability or effect, is when they are shooting and they get the hit icon right here. Now, bombers are different. Bombers, if they do roll those critical icons, whether that be on the blue or the red or the black dice, or in the case of the TIE Bomber, since it throws the black dice, if it gets the... Oh, for some reason my vassal is really loud for some reason. I've not had... oh, wrong button. Not had to do that before. I'm just going to... So if it's loud for me, it must be loud for you guys. All right. There we go. So they throw the black dice, which shows a hit and a crit icon, which means that they deal 2 damage from this 1 die, not just 1. Any other squadron, if they are not bomber and they're using black die for anti-ship attack, they only deal damage from the hit portion, not the crit portion. But bomber, so, black die, it's 8 sides, there's 2 blanks, there's 2 hit crits. So you have 50-50 chance of either just missing or getting double damage, and then the other 4 sides are the single hits. So TIE bombers are, pretty reliable in the fact that you're almost always going to get damage. Not always. You still potentially want to bring something along like Bomber Command Center, which allows bombers to reroll attack die. But anyway, getting a little bit off track. Another unique thing about bombers is that once those shields go down, if those ships don't have contains, you can start pegging them for critical effects, which that's important to draw those face-up damage cards. So again, they're good when employed in a method of just kind of overwhelming a target. The second keyword that they get is heavy. So heavy, you do not prevent engaged squadrons from attacking ships or moving. So meaning that if you try to shield, for example, this Star Destroyer with a bunch of TIE bombers and these X-Wings fly up, they can still shoot the Star Destroyer, barring, again, some other effect or some other upgrade card that could change that. But they essentially can just ignore the TIE Bomber and just attack the ship, because, again, heavy doesn't stop them from flying up and shooting ships, and then when they're done, on the next turn or something, maybe they just fly away, and then the TIE Bomber is just super sad because he couldn't shoot them at all. So, again, in terms of heavy, so just remember, when you are at distance 1 of squadrons, as long as there's no some type of obstruction or something blocking your line of sight, or against some other card effect or ability, when you're at distance one of another squadron, you are still engaged with that squadron. Doesn't matter. All heavy does is just prevent, them. If they want to run away, they can run away, and or if they want to shoot ships, they can shoot ships. But otherwise, as heavy, you're engaged with those X-wings, meaning you're stuck there. You can't leave because you have heavy, they don't. So you're engaged with them. You're stuck there. If they want to leave, they can, but you can't unless something comes along and allows you to otherwise escape. That's the weakness of the bombers, is that typically you need to have intel tag along with them, an intel squadron, which makes other ships heavy, so then the bomber can do its thing. But hey, for only 9 points, 5 hull, the black die, it's reliable damage. The only drawback to TIE bombers is the fact that, again, they are only rolling the single die, which makes that die very easy to either force a reroll to get rid of a hit crit, or cancel that die, or even if they're trying to attack a target, if it's obstructed, they can't even make an attack. So for Empire, the TIE bomber, they're cheap, but they definitely have some weaknesses that can be exploited against them. But that's the normal TIE bomber going on here. Nothing crazy with those keywords or effects. Let's take a look at Gamma Squadron. So Gamma Squadron is it's what we call a unique generic squadron. It's unique in the fact that if you see there above its name, you'll see there's a little dot or bullet point next to Gamma Squadron. Signifies you can only have one of them in your fleet. And why do we say they're unique generic? Well, it's only 10 points. So it's not as expensive as getting like a true ace, which have defensive tokens, but the Gamma Squadron, these kind of squadrons, don't get defensive tokens. But usually their abilities are augmented in some other way. Now, Gamma Squadron has the exact same stats as a TIE Bomber, but for 1 point more, you're taking heavy, you're chucking it out the door. And in its place, you're getting grit, which grit says you're not prevented from moving while you're engaged by only one squadron. So, for example, if just one X-wing flew up and engaged Gamma Squadron can be like, nah, peace, son, I'm getting out. You can't stop this. Compared to, now your opponent has to dedicate 2 X-wings to lock down Gamma Squadron, and now Gamma Squadron is now stuck. So that is a benefit of grit. Grit is actually very useful for helping your squadrons kind of spread themselves out, and then if your enemy wants to lock one down, he has to commit more forces to do that, rather than just sending, one squadron to lock down everything. Granted, you can only bring the one Gamma Squadron. Another great thing about Gamma Squadron is since it no longer has heavy, meaning that if in a pinch, if you need it to lock down some enemy squadrons, it can fly up and lock down these X-Wings. And, it won't survive very long in that role, but there might be some cases where, you don't want those X-Wings to move and attack your more valuable squadrons, and you're just throwing Gamma there as a speed bump. He's only 10 points. It's cheap in that regard. So that's what some people have used Gamma Squadron for. Otherwise, it's one of those things, if you've got the squadron points for it, bring Gamma Squadron. Why not? He's still very useful. No other crazy things going on there. Let's talk about Captain Jonas. I love Captain Jonas. I think he is a very valuable tool in the Empire's toolkit if leveraged effectively. So Captain Jonas, again, he's unique. You can only have one of them in your fleet. Again, he has the same stats as we've talked about before in terms of speed, health, and attacking with dice. He does cost 16 points. Now, his card ability reads, and he does get double braces for defensive tokens. His card ability reads, while a friendly ship is attacking a ship at distance 1 of you meaning Captain Jonas, it may change 1 die to a face of an accuracy icon. And he also gets the keywords of bomber, grit, and heavy. So he's kind of a mishmash of a TIE bomber and Gamma Squadron rolled into one with this extra ability. He still has grit, so he definitely can still run away unless they're dedicating squadrons to kill him. But again, also he has heavy. He's not very good in like trying to stop or slow down enemy squadrons. But you'd be surprised at how many people will dedicate squadrons to try to kill Captain Jonas because, again, his ability is extremely useful. So in a situation here, let's say that this is an ISD-2 shooting at long range of these ships. Now, typically when ISD-2 is shooting, it's throwing the 4 red die. Hammerheads at that range, they have evade, so it's pretty easy for them usually to kind of get around, hardly taking any damage. Now, how does Captain Jonas's ability work? Well, the first thing you do is you need to pull up the distance 1 band here, which is this black circle. That's 1, red is 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first thing we need to check is, are we at distance 1 of these enemy ships? So we see here that we can clearly see that the circle is at distance 1 of these ships. Now, one thing I do want to point out when you're looking at card or abilities such as this, you actually don't need to be in range of the black cardboard of the ship. As long as you are barely touching the ship's plastic, like in this case here, you can see they just barely have a teeny tiny little corner of that ship's plastic, that is considered at distance 1. Do not include ranging from the shield dials. Shield dials and shield frames never count for anything in this regard. But again, if you're just barely touching the plastic, that's going to count. And obviously, if you're any closer than that, that's going to count. Even, for example, if he's sitting over here and another hammerhead was over here, and, that's because his ability is a bubble. So as long as you're at distance 1 of Jonas, you can get Jonas's benefit for any ships that are attacking these targets. All right. So Jonas is here. These ships are at long range of the Star Destroyer. So let's say that the Star Destroyer is going to shoot this hammerhead here. He throws his 4 red die. And man, what a great attack that is, except normally for hammerhead, it just would have evaded, canceled the double, and now you're only doing 2 damage. It's like, oh, so frustrating. Well, guess what? You've got Jonas there. That blank red, you can now turn into an accuracy. Boom. You've now locked the evade token. That ship is going to take 4 damage. And even with the redirect that it has, it's going to wipe out the 2 front shields. It's wiping out a side shield. And you're still dealing a hull damage to that hammerhead. Look how drastically that result changes around just by having Jonas. Now, a great combination to have with Jonas is if you are taking Imperial Star Destroyers or the Super Star Destroyer, if you're taking quad laser turrets, or no, quad turbo laser cannons, which is if you have a red die accuracy in your die pool, you get to add another red die accuracy to your pool. So then guess what? Now you could have locked the evade and a redirect, and you just smashed in 2 damage, 2 to the shields and then 2 to the hull still. Devastating. This also makes, there's just so much use of Jonas compared to also with some objectives that he coincides with, like close range intel scan, or even utilizing him for rift assault. Just, again, for 16 points, he's great. He's accuracy insurance. If you have a way to fit him in a list, I've even seen some lists where they bring like a very small complement of fighters, 1 or 2 escorts and some intel and Jonas, and all they want Jonas for is for his ability to get where he wants. I've seen people combo Jonas with Demolisher, because Demolisher, if you take the Gladiator Type 2, you get a red die in those side arcs, and so they'll use them to blow up flotillas or fly up and lock down braces and just smash away with the black dice. And again, there's some effective combos you can have with Jonas. So that's Captain Jonas. Let's talk about, at the time, used to be one of the most controversial squadrons in the game. Not so much anymore. He's fallen a little out of favor. Still useful in the right combinations and depending on what you go up against. The Major himself, Major Reimer. Yeah, the Major, yes. So the Major is also a TIE bomber squadron. Now, if you look at his card, he also costs 16 points. He gets the double braces. Again, he's got the dot or bullet point in front of his name. You can only bring the 1 of him in your fleet. He does have some slight modification there of his anti-squadron armament. He brings a blue and a black die. So makes him a little more useful in the squad fight, but you don't still want to rely on him for that. So he also has the bomber and heavy keywords, but his card ability reads: friendly squadrons at distance 1 can attack enemy ships at close range using all die in their battery armament. Now, when his card was first released, he used to be able to attack at close to medium range. And this was nerfed before Salone came out because I knew that with Salone was just going to be brutal. So that is how far he used to be able to shoot, everyone. Look how ridiculous that range is. That's how he used to be. And then they realized, you know what? That seems really powerful. Let's scale his ability back, especially Salone. Now you can only shoot at close range out to here. This is still very good, though, because if you compare that with distance 1, where squadrons only can normally attack, so here is where most squadrons can only attack to, and now you can see here you can still shoot way out to distant, to close range. So it still has its benefits, especially as a way of getting around the upgrade card quad laser cannons. No, quad laser turrets, the offensive retrofit card that allows a ship to counter at distance 1. So Reimer is good at getting around that, so you're not taking any counter damage back, but also just the flexibility of shooting at close range compared to distance 1 means that you don't have to put your squadron so far outside of relay range or outside of your initial activation with your ships. Again, by being able to attack enemy ships from further away, it places them out of potential flak. It forces your opponent to try to deploy squadrons out there, potentially again away from flak, and it just makes your opponent have to really think more about how to engage this ball when they're so far away from his forces. So there's some other things we need to read about Major Reimer. So Major Reimer, again, as I mentioned before, his card used to read one way. Now it reads, squadrons at distance 1 can attack enemy ships at close range using all die in their battery armament. And then what does his other errata say? Friendly squadrons that are at distance 1 of Major Reimer can attack ships at close range instead of being restricted to distance 1. This includes Major Reimer himself, because again, he says friendly squadrons, not another friendly squadron. So yes, his effect does apply to himself. When a friendly squadron attacks in this way, it ignores the die color restrictions on the range side of the ruler, rolling all die in its battery armament, the rightmost ornament on the squadron card. So just some clarifications, because some people were getting confused about how squadron initially could attack at medium range with a black die, etc. That's not so much a concern anymore, but pretty much he can attack with his battery armament for ships, which is the red box there, at close range. And again, any squadron can. So, for example, not only is, let's say, Major Reimer is here, he attacked that hammerhead. Captain Jonas, if you want him to, right here at distance 1 of Major Reimer, and then still at close range of the hammerhead. So you can see here, you can really start arraying your squadrons, even something like this, where you're just barely nicking Major Reimer, but then I'm still at close range of this further hammerhead. So you can see there, as I mentioned before, you really kind of get this nice little bubble spreading out to where your squadrons can smack ships around. Now, again, they can't shoot squadrons in that manner. It's for ships only. What are some other squadrons that can benefit from having like that ability? A lot of people like to take Major Reimer with some fire sprays because they throw the double blues. He's great with Merrick Steel. Mora Key really benefits from Major Reimer. Sometimes she struggles a little bit to get into enough of the right positioning for her to chase down some things. So having that little bit extra range on her attack is useful. But otherwise, that's Major Reimer. So again, to go over everything real quick, you got the generic TIE Bomber. You've got the generic unique Gamma Squadron, Captain Jonas, Major Reimer. Gamma Squadron's thing is that it has grit instead of heavy. Jonas has the ability where he sets a die to an accuracy for enemy ships at distance 1 of Jonas. And the Major Reimer, anyone at distance 1 of Reimer can shoot at ships at close range instead of distance 1. That's all of that in a nutshell. And again, one last thing I do want to point out, though, is that if Major Reimer, even though he's at close range of an enemy ship, again, if there's enemy squadrons out there that he is engaged with, if there's no intel nearby to make them heavy, he can't just shoot past them. He can't shoot at the ships because their enemy squadrons are there getting in his way. But yeah, that's TIE bombers. No other crazy things going on or unique interactions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll have some more videos produced for Sunday tomorrow, so I hope you guys stick around and you guys are great. I just appreciate you guys for watching. If you feel like I missed anything or got anything wrong, please be sure to point it out. Any questions, please ask. I respond. I will see you all next time.